Look closely at the face that defined an era of cinema. The fierce, almond-shaped eyes that could hold the secrets of 100 characters, yet guard a lifetime of personal survival. The wild mane of dark hair, the high, sculpted cheekbones, the warm, husky laugh that shook the foundations of post-war European filmmaking. To the world, she was the ultimate fantasy, the Mediterranean goddess, the BB of Italy, the crowning jewel of Federico Fellini, Luchino Visconti, and Sergio Leone. She was the celluloid dream of a reconstructed Europe, a symbol of hope and untamed vitality rising from the ashes of World War II. Her image was plastered on billboards from Rome to Tokyo, a secular saint of the silver screen, adored by millions who knew her name but had no concept of her soul. Behind the blinding flashbulbs of Venice and Cannes lay a woman who was never supposed to be an actress, a woman whose very entry into the cinematic arena was born out of trauma, whose early career was a masterclass in survival, and whose private life was controlled by contracts, secrets, and a fierce, unyielding drive for self-preservation. Post-war Europe was hungry for distraction, desperate to rebuild its broken identity on the backs of beautiful women. The cinema was the new cathedral, and actresses were the new high priestesses. But for Claudia, this cathedral was a gilded panopticon. This is the story of Claude Josephine Rose Cardinale, a life lived at a breakneck speed, spanning 87 years of history, triumph, and rebellion. It is the story of a captive who designed her own escape, a silent icon who fought to find her true voice, and a mother who endured the ultimate sacrifice to protect her child from a judgmental world. It is an odyssey that begins in the dust of North Africa, scales the heights of European high art, survives the synthetic machinery of Hollywood, and culminates in a triumphant reclamation of her own destiny. Our story begins far from the Roman studios of Cinecittà, far from the glamorous salons of Paris. We are in La Goulette, a bustling, sun-baked port municipality in French Tunisia, on the 15th of April, 1938. The sun is hot. The air smells of salt, roasting spices, and jasmine. And French-Italian parents welcome a daughter. They name her Claude. This is a multicultural haven, a vibrant, chaotic melting pot where Sicilian, French, Maltese, Greek, and Arabic voices swirl together in a rich daily tapestry. La Goulette is a frontier of cultures, a place where the Mediterranean does not divide, but unites. Her father, Francesco Cardinale, is a hard-working railway clerk of Sicilian and Piedmontese descent. Her mother, Yolande Greco, is the daughter of Sicilian emigrants who crossed the sea in search of a better life. The young girl is raised in a household where Tunisian Arabic, French, and the Sicilian dialect are spoken interchangeably. Italian, the very language that would eventually make her famous across the globe, is completely foreign to her, a tongue spoken by others across the sea, a language of tourists and distant radio broadcasts. Young Claude does not speak Italian, nor does she possess the docile grace expected of girls in her community. She is not a delicate, quiet child. She is a self-described tomboy, fierce, quiet, and wild. She runs barefoot through the dusty, sun-baked streets of Tunis, her skin bronzed by the Mediterranean sun, fighting with classmates and actively resisting the expectations of a deeply conservative, patriarchal society. She is a creature of the wind and the sand. When the local boys try to intimidate or catcall her, she does not shrink away. She fights back with her fists, earning a reputation as a force of nature. She is an untamable spirit who dreams not of the silver screen, but of a quiet, respectable life as a schoolteacher, bringing knowledge to children in the remote African desert. She values her independence above all else, cherishing the freedom of her untracked youth, oblivious to the fact that her face is already a passport to a world she detests. But destiny is a relentless predator, and in 1957, it corners her. She is 19 years old, standing near a stage during the Italian Cinema Week in Tunis. She is not even a contestant, just a local schoolgirl selling charity raffle tickets to support her school. She is wearing no makeup, her hair is windswept, and she is dressed in simple clothes. But the judges of the beauty contest do not care about the rules of registration, nor do they care about her consent. One of them looks at her natural, unpolished beauty, her striking, almost feline gaze, and drags her onto the stage. Against her will, amidst her vocal protests and furious glares, they crown her the most beautiful Italian girl in Tunisia. The prize is a golden ticket, a gift wrapped in velvet that would soon turn to iron, an all-expenses-paid trip to the Venice Film Festival with her mother. She arrives in Venice, a wild, rebellious girl wrapped in a traditional Tunisian dress, completely unaware of the cinematic sharks circling in the Venetian lagoon. The Italian press, tired of the polished, predictable starlets of Rome, goes wild for this exotic, uncooperative beauty who refuses to play the starlet. She does not know how to pose. She does not know how to smile on command. When the photographers shout her name, she glares at them with a fierce, untamed defiance. Producers throw contracts at her feet, dazzled by her refusal to smile for their cameras, interpreting her genuine disdain for their world as a brilliant, sophisticated marketing tactic. They mistake her fear and anger for mystique. She refuses them all. She does not want to act. She detests the superficiality of the film world, the predatory stares of the executives, and the loss of her privacy. She wants her freedom, her quiet desert schoolhouse. She flees Venice and returns to Tunis, hoping the madness of fame will fade like a passing summer storm, leaving her to her quiet, anonymous life. Instead, the dark shadow of human cruelty finds her. In the quiet, unpoliced corners of Tunis, a wealthy, influential man 10 years her senior corners her. She is raped, a terrible, violent act of violation that leaves her shattered, isolated, and soon pregnant. In the deeply religious, conservative Catholic atmosphere of the late 1950s, an unwed teenage mother is a catastrophic scandal, a social death sentence that can destroy a family's honor forever, forcing them into exile and shame. Claudia is terrified, trapped in a paralyzing web of shame, guilt, and fear. She contemplates her future in the dark of her bedroom, listening to the ocean waves, feeling her body change, feeling the weight of a world that offers no mercy to victims. In those dark hours of despair, she makes a vow. She will keep the child, no matter the cost, no matter the humiliation, no matter the societal exile. But she needs an escape, a shield, a way to support her family and survive the crushing, judgmental eyes of her homeland. She needs money, she needs protection, and she needs a place to hide. She looks north, to Rome. The very cinema she rejected becomes her only shelter, her desperate, practical bid for survival. The silver screen would be her fortress, and her beauty would be the currency she used to buy her son's survival. In Rome, the film industry is booming, hungry for fresh, exotic faces to fuel the post-war economic miracle of Cinecittà. The studios are a factory of dreams, but for Claudia, they are a factory of survival. It is here that she crosses paths with Franco Cristaldi, a brilliant, powerful, and ruthlessly calculated film producer who runs Vides Cinematografica. Cristaldi is a man of sharp intellect and absolute control. He sees the raw, untamed beauty of Cardinale and senses an international goldmine. He does not see a traumatized teenager. He sees an asset to be managed, a rough diamond to be cut and polished for maximum profit. He offers her a lifeline, a way to support her family, pay her mounting medical bills, and hide her condition. But this salvation comes with a terrible, soul-crushing price. She signs a contract with Vides Cinematografica. It is a 7-year agreement that reads more like a lease on her soul than a professional arrangement. Under this contract, Claudia is no longer a human being. she is a product. Cristaldi will manage everything: her career, her wardrobe, her public appearances, her friendships, her finances, and her personal life. The rules are absolute, clinical, and terrifying. She cannot cut her hair without permission, she cannot gain weight, she cannot marry, she cannot make any independent financial decisions, and above all, her pregnancy must remain an absolute, state-guaranteed secret from the world. Cristaldi tells her bluntly, film stars do not have illegitimate children. In the Italy of the 1950s, where divorce is illegal and religious conservatism reigns, an unwed mother is a public relations disaster. If the public discovers her secret, the contract will be void, her career will be ruined before it begins, her family will face financial destruction, and her child will be branded a bastard by law. In 1958, she travels to London under the guise of learning English for her upcoming roles. In secret, isolated from friends and family, she gives birth to her son, Patrick. Cristaldi orchestrates the cover-up with clinical precision, treating the birth like a logistical problem to be solved. The boy will be raised in a boarding school, and later introduced to the world not as her son, but as her younger brother. To the public, she is the carefree, dazzling starlet, the ultimate symbol of Italian youth and beauty. To her newborn son, she is a sister. The emotional toll is devastating, a slow-burning psychological torture that tears at her maternal instincts daily. Every smile she gives to the flashbulbs, every elegant pose on the red carpet, is a mask protecting her son's legitimacy and her career. She is living a double life, playing her most difficult, agonizing role off-camera. She is no longer the master of her own body or thoughts, feeling like a highly paid prisoner, an employee on a fixed salary in Cristaldi's kingdom. She is forbidden from showing maternal affection in public, forbidden from claiming her own flesh and blood. But the lens of the camera does not show the tears. It shows a star being born. In 1958, she makes her official film debut in Goha, starring opposite a young, charismatic Omar Sharif. That same year, she secures a role in Mario Monicelli's comic masterpiece, I Soliti Ignoti, big deal on Madonna Street. She plays Carmelita, a Sicilian girl locked away by her overprotective brother. Her face, framed by dark hair and expressive of a silent, burning longing, captures the attention of millions. The film is a massive international success, and her brief screen time is enough to ignite a national obsession. The audience falls in love with her eyes that carry a profound, unexplained sadness that the public mistakes for cinematic mystery. The pace accelerates. The industry demands more of her body, her face, her time. She is pushed into role after role, a relentless conveyor belt of production. In 1959, she stars in Il Magistrato and the crime drama Vento del Sud. In 1960, she lands a crucial role in Mauro Bolognini's Il Bell'Antonio alongside Marcello Mastroianni, playing a young bride navigating a complex, unfulfilled marriage to an impotent husband. On set, Mastroianni falls deeply, passionately in love with her. He woos her with the intensity of a man used to getting what he wants, but she rejects his advances. She recognizes him as an actor who cannot help but fall in love with his co-stars, a man who confuses the fantasy of the screen with the reality of life. More importantly, she cannot let anyone get too close. To let a man into her life is to risk her secret being discovered. She must remain isolated to remain safe. She is working 16 hours a day, running from one set to the next, fueled by nervous energy and the constant, suffocating fear of exposure. Every ringing telephone is a potential threat. Every journalist's question is a landmine. And yet, she is still a silent icon. Because of her deep, raspy, French-accented voice, her directors insist on dubbing her with high-pitched, traditional Italian voice actresses. They believe her natural voice is too hoarse, too masculine, too foreign for the idealized Italian woman. She is a visual masterpiece, but her true voice is silenced by the industry, locked behind Cristaldi's ironclad control. She is a gorgeous puppet, controlled by the invisible strings of vita cinematographica, a face without a voice, a myth without a self. By the early 1960s, Claudia Cardinale is a household name in Italy, but the year 1961 elevates her from a beautiful starlet to a true dramatic actress of incomparable depth. She stars in Valerio Zerlini's masterpiece, Girl with a Suitcase, La ragazza con la valigia. She plays Aida, a naive, betrayed young single mother trying to survive in a hostile, class-conscious society. It is a role that mirrors her own secret reality so closely that her performance is agonizingly real, raw, and devastating. When she looks at the camera with tears in her eyes, she is not acting. She is exercising her own pain on screen, pouring her maternal longing, her isolation, and her deep feelings of betrayal into every frame. The critics are stunned by her emotional range, unaware that they are watching a real-life tragedy play out under the guise of fiction. Then comes Luchino Visconti. The aristocratic, highly demanding director casts her in the gritty tragedy, Rocco and His Brothers, as Ginetta. Visconti is mesmerized by her combination of feline sensuality and fierce, innate dignity. He becomes her mentor, treating her like a princess, teaching her the nuances of high art, elegance, and classical theater. Visconti famously tells her that he is training her to be beautiful, polishing her raw Tunisian edges into the diamonds of European high culture. He surrounds her with luxury, with books, with music, helping her find the confidence that her trauma had stolen from her. But the year of years is 1963, a legendary, chaotic, and unprecedented year in cinema history. Claudia Cardinale finds herself at the center of a creative war between two of the greatest directors of all time, who represent two completely opposing philosophies of art, Luchino Visconti and Federico Fellini. Both directors want her for their masterpieces, and both are shooting simultaneously. For Visconti, she is Angelica in the grand historical epic The Leopard, Il Gattopardo. She undergoes a radical physical transformation, her waist cinched into historical corsets that restrict her breathing to the point of pain, her dark hair styled into elegant, mathematically precise updos. She plays the ambitious, radiant bourgeois beauty who conquers the heart of a young Alain Delon. The legendary 45-minute ballroom scene becomes an iconic image of cinema history. She is the symbol of a rising new world, elegant yet untamed, sweeping away the decaying aristocracy of Sicily. Visconti's set is a temple of silence, discipline, and historical accuracy. He demands perfection, treating every scene like a Renaissance painting. At the very same time, she is filming Federico Fellini's 8½. Fellini does not want the corseted, aristocratic Angelica. He wants Claudia as she is. She plays a character named Claudia, the ideal, pure, angelic woman of the protagonist's fever dreams. She is the light in the darkness, the symbol of absolute purity. Fellini's set is a chaotic, improvisational playground, filled with music, laughter, and no written scripts. Fellini tells her to ignore the rules, to let her natural warmth and husky laugh shine. He treats her not as a painted doll, but as a muse of vitality. To shoot both films, Claudia is shuttled back and forth across Italy, caught in a dizzying artistic whirlwind. She is flying between Visconti's opulent, silent sets in Sicily and Fellini's loud, spontaneous playground in Rome. Visconti demands her hair dark. Fellini wants it light. Visconti insists on absolute adherence to the script. Fellini tells her to make it up as she goes. She is changing costumes, makeup, and personalities on planes and in train stations, her mind pushed to the brink of exhaustion. And for the first time in her career, Fellini does something revolutionary. He refuses to dub her. He lets her use her real, deep, smoky voice. Fellini recognizes that her voice is her soul, that the raspy, imperfect cadence is where her true power lies. The contrast is thrilling. The goddess has a voice, and it is hypnotic, filled with the dust of Tunis, the sophistication of Paris, and the raw truth of her life. By the end of 1963, The Leopard wins the Palme d'Or at Cannes, 8½ wins the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film, and Claudia Cardinale is crowned the undisputed queen of international cinema. She has conquered the 2 peaks of European film art in a single year, but her heart remains locked in Cristaldi's gilded cage, her son still forced to call her sister. The world is too small for Cardinale to remain in Europe. Hollywood, hungry for the next Sophia Loren, comes calling with bags of gold and promises of global domination. The American studios want a piece of this European magic, and they are willing to pay any price to get it. In late 1963, she stars in Blake Edwards' legendary comedy The Pink Panther as Princess Dala, starring opposite Peter Sellers and David Niven. Her charm is effortless, her comedic timing impeccable. She becomes a global sex symbol, her face gracing the covers of magazines from New York to Tokyo. The world is obsessed with this new Mediterranean import, this woman who can be both regal and wild, sophisticated and raw. She signs an exclusive contract with Universal Studios. She stars in the grand epic Circus World in 1964, alongside John Wayne and Rita Hayworth, absorbing the lessons of classic Hollywood royalty. She sees the tragedy of Hayworth, a woman destroyed by the studio system, and takes it as a warning. In 1966, she takes on the role of a feisty Mexican woman in Richard Brooks' acclaimed action western The Professionals, acting alongside Burt Lancaster and Lee Marvin. She is no longer just an exotic beauty. She is an action star, performing her own dangerous stunts, riding horses through the unforgiving desert, and holding her own against Hollywood's toughest, most intimidating leading men. She earns their respect not with her beauty, but with her grit, her refusal to complain, and her physical bravery. Yet, despite the luxury, the Beverly Hills mansions, and the global stardom, Hollywood feels hollow to her. She is tired of being treated as a product, tired of the relentless, sterile machinery of the studio system that seeks to erase her European identity, to standardize her beauty, to turn her into a predictable, safe brand. She refuses to move permanently to Los Angeles. She does not want to become a cliché, another foreign star chewed up and spit out by the studio system. She values her soul more than their millions. She returns to Europe to make her ultimate, defining cinematic statement. In 1968, director Sergio Leone is preparing his operatic masterpiece, Once Upon a Time in the West. It is a monumental film about the death of the Old West and the birth of modern America, a land built on blood, greed, and steel. At the center of this brutal, male-dominated world of killers, outlaws, and corrupt businessmen, Leone places a single woman, Jill McBain, a former prostitute seeking a new life on the frontier. He chooses Claudia. Her performance as Jill is the emotional, moral spine of the entire 4-hour epic. In a film of long silences, tense standoffs, and intense close-ups, Claudia's face tells the story of human resilience. When Ennio Morricone's soaring, operatic theme swells, it is not for the gunslingers. It is for her. She is not a damsel in distress. She is the builder of empires, the water giver to the railroad workers, the ultimate survivor of violence who stands tall when the dust clears and the men have shot each other into oblivion. Her performance is a monument to survival, a cinematic reflection of her own life struggle. That same year, she demonstrates her immense dramatic range back in Italy, starring in Damiano Damiani's intense mafia drama, The Day of the Owl, Il Giorno della Civetta. Her performance as a fierce Sicilian widow defying the code of silence wins her the prestigious David di Donatello for Best Actress. She is showing the world that she is not just a beautiful face. She is an actress of political weight, willing to tackle the dark, dangerous realities of Italian society. She is at the absolute peak of her creative powers, a global icon of strength and beauty. But her personal life is a pressure cooker about to explode. The lie she is living is crushing her. and the man who created that lie is tightening his grip. By the early 1970s, the gilded cage of Franco Cristaldi has become completely unendurable. He had married her in a secret ceremony in Atlanta in 1966, a marriage she never wanted, never recognized, and felt was merely another legally binding way for him to own her, to secure his asset against any attempt at escape. He still controlled her finances, her schedules, her interviews, her very existence. She was a superstar who had to ask her husband producer for an allowance, a global icon who had no control over her own destiny. But the wild, rebellious girl from the sands of Tunis is still alive deep inside her, and she is ready to fight for her life. The turning point comes in 1973, on the set of the film I Guapi. The director is Pasquale Squitieri. He is everything Cristaldi is not. Passionate, rebellious, politically radical, hot-tempered, and wildly unconventional. He does not want to control her. He wants to unleash her. He sees the fire in her eyes and wants to let it burn. It is a lightning strike. Claudia falls deeply, irrevocably in love. For the first time in her life, she takes absolute control of her own destiny. She defies Cristaldi. She packs her bags and breaks her contract, walking away from the money, the safety, and the powerful studio system that built her. It is an act of professional suicide. But to her, it is the only way to save her soul. Cristaldi attempts to destroy her, launching a vicious media war, warning her that without his influence, she will become a nobody, a forgotten relic of the 60s. He asks his powerful friends in the Italian film industry to ostracize her. Visconti, her old mentor, turns her down for his final film, The Innocent, choosing loyalty to the producer over loyalty to his muse. She discovers her bank accounts have been emptied, her assets frozen under the terms of her contract. She is broke, blacklisted, and alone. But she is finally free. She proves them wrong with a fierce, quiet defiance. She flies to New York to be with Squitieri. The relationship is a massive media scandal in Italy, but Claudia does not care. For the first time in 15 years, she is breathing free air. She publicly and proudly acknowledges Patrick as her son, ending more than a decade of painful, state-mandated deception. Patrick is finally able to call her mother in front of the world, healing a deep, weeping wound that had festered for 15 years. The relief is profound, a rebirth that no film role could ever match. With Squitieri, she experiences the true, unburdened joy of motherhood again, giving birth to a daughter whom she names Claudia. She is raising her child in the light, not in the shadows. Her artistic partnership with him produces some of the most raw, politically charged, and socially conscious cinema of her career. She stars in Blood Brothers in 1974, The Iron Prefect, Il Prefetto di Ferro in 1977, and the crime drama Corleone in 1978. She is no longer the glamorous muse. She is a gritty, realistic actress of the political cinema, using her talent to expose corruption and injustice. In 1982, she embarks on one of the most perilous, legendary film productions in history, Werner Herzog's Fitzcarraldo. Shot deep in the uncharted Peruvian Amazon, she plays Molly, the madam who finances Klaus Kinski's mad dream of building an opera house in the jungle. Surrounded by tropical disease, hostile environments, and Kinski's legendary, violent tantrums, Claudia remains the calm, professional, and beloved anchor of the cast and crew. She is a woman who has survived the sharks of Venice and the predators of Rome. A madman in the jungle cannot intimidate her. Her talent only deepens with age. In 1984, she reunites with Squitieri for Claretta, playing Claretta Petacci, the tragic, controversial mistress of Benito Mussolini. Her intense, haunting performance wins her another Nostro d'Argento for Best Actress, proving to her detractors that her talent was never dependent on Cristaldi's machinery, that she was always the author of her own greatness. As the decades roll on, the film industry changes, but Claudia Cardinale remains resolute, a monument to authenticity in an artificial world. She refuses to chase the illusion of eternal youth. In an industry obsessed with cosmetic alteration and surgical preservation, Claudia famously refuses plastic surgery. She proudly wears her wrinkles, her graying hair, and her changing body as badges of honor. "I don't like to stop time," she declares to the press. "Aging is natural, and my face is my history. Every wrinkle represents a battle won, a secret kept, or a moment of joy. I do not want to erase my life from my face." She channels her immense, restless energy into global activism. In 2000, she is named a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador for the defense of women's rights. She uses her voice, that deep, smoky, authentic voice that was once silenced and dubbed, to fight for the freedom, literacy, and safety of women around the globe. She campaigns against violence, against forced marriages, and for the empowerment of young girls, always remembering the frightened 19-year-old girl in Tunis who had to fight so hard for her own agency, her own body, and her own child. She continues to act well into her 70s and 80s, appearing in independent artistic films like Signora Enrica in 2010 and The Artist and the Model in 2012, showcasing a quiet, profound grace and a deep, intuitive understanding of the human condition. She is no longer fighting the camera. She is sharing her wisdom with it. On September 23, 2025, in the quiet town of Nemours, France, the great Claudia Cardinale draws her final breath at the age of 87, surrounded by the children she fought so hard to love openly, in the warm light of a free life. The news of her passing sends shockwaves through the world of art and cinema. The last of the golden giants of post-war European cinema has crossed the final horizon, joining Fellini, Visconti, and Mastroianni in the pantheon of history. But she leaves behind an indestructible monument. Over 175 films spanning more than 6 decades. A legacy of courage, breathtaking beauty, and absolute, uncompromising independence. She was a girl from the sands of North Africa who conquered the capitals of Europe and the hills of Hollywood, not by playing by the rules of the game, but by having the courage to rewrite them. The cameras have stopped, the flashbulbs have faded into history, but on the screen, forever frozen in the golden, eternal light of the projector, Claudia Cardinale lives on. Beautiful, fierce, wild, and forever free. Welcome to European Screen Divas. My name is Sarah. Subscribe to the channel as this will allow me to create more videos.